Shalom Aleichem. We're going to give a shir, a basic quick overview, without any chidushim, pretty much, of the inyan of Mechiras Chametz, specifically the Alter Rebbe's shitta of Mechiras Chametz Ba'arab Kablan. It's very important for Talmidei Tmimim Bochrim in Yeshiva who learn all the inyanim of the Minhagi Chabad, and we know that the Alter Rebbe has a big chiddush here of Mechiras Chametz Ba'arab Kablan, so it's important for every single one of us to have a basic idea klolis in what the inyan of Mechiras Chametz is bechlal, and what's the Alter Rebbe's shitta and chidush in Mechiras Chametz and Ba'arab Kablan. Although this is not a practical sheet of how to do Mechiras Chametz, you have to rely on the Rabbonim, Yoshvei al Midin, who are the ones who make the Mechiras Chametz. We just give the Rav a sign of Shtar Hasho with the Rav that he should be our shliach to be able to be Meicher the Chametz. But still, from a Lomdish perspective, as a Yeshiva Bacher, we have to know the Chiddush of the Alter Rebbe. So we're going to give a basic overview on the inyan of Mechiras Chametz Ba'arab Kablan. So it begins with the following. Bechlal, we all know, the Torah says that we have to get rid of our Chametz, Tashbisus ein mebatechem, as well as if we don't get rid of the Chametz, we're even on Bal Yiro, Bal Yimotzei. Some Chametz is Midraisa, some Chametz is Midrabanon, v'chulu v'chulu. Therefore we do clean the house, and we gather all our chametz, and then we make a fire, and we burn all the chametz. In the olden days, that's what was done. Everyone got rid of their chametz. However, it became a matzav that certain people had certain businesses, factories of chametz, bekayotze bazeh, and an eitzah was necessary to be able to not be over bal yiro bal yimotzei, or tashbisu seir mibatechem, and also have the chametz after Yom Tov. Likewise, the famous story with the Tanoim that were on the boat, and they needed chametz for after Pesach because they weren't able to get more food. They were on a boat to make more food, so they sold the chametz to the goy, and then they bought it back from him after Pesach, and like that they were not over on Bal Yiroah or Bal Yimotzei. So likewise was the same nekuda. So what were Yidden doing? They were getting a goy, and they would sell the chametz to this goy, whoever they know, a goy that they're friends with or works for them, and then after Pesach they would buy back the chametz. That was the basic general nekuda of Mechiras Chametz. What started to happen was, sometimes apparently the goyim didn't want to sell back the chametz, so we had to try to figure out and find the eitzes that we should be able to make sure to get the chametz back after Pesach. There's even a famous story once in a shtetl where the guy who bought the chametz was advised by his chaverim not to sell the chametz back to the Yidden after Pesach. And the Rav came to buy back the chametz, and he said, "No, I want all the chametz." The Rav didn't know what to do, but then he had figured out an eitzah. He told the Yidden to bring all the broken pots and pans to the guy's house, and they said, "This is what you bought, keep it." Kemuvan, he came running and said, "Keep your chametz, I'll sell it back." So one of the earliest mekoides and sources of selling the chametz to a goy, or giving the chametz to the goy, was from one of the biggest poskim, the Marai, the Baal Trumas Hadeshen, Rabbeinu Yisrael Iserlin, and he writes that you should give your chametz b'matona gemura to a goy that's your friend, or to sell him the chametz b'dover mu'at. You sell him the chametz for a small amount of money, and he buys the chametz, and then after Pesach you come and you buy the chametz back from this particular goy who you sold the chametz to. As I said before, began to be problems. Kanire, the goyim started to be smart. They were buying ganzen mashke factories, ganzen kretschmes full worth of chametz, or stockpiles or stores that had chametz, crackers and cookies and flour or whatever, what have you, and they didn't want to sell it back. So an eitzah needed to be found to be able to force the goy or to pay for the chametz the proper amount of money, or to be able to have him sell back the chametz to the yid. So apparently the Neder B'Yehuda figured out an eitzah, and the Neder B'Yehuda decided like this. He came with an eitzah, and he said that the eitzah should be that you charge the goy the fair market value of the chametz, but the goy doesn't have that kind of money. Let's say the chametz is worth $1 million, so you ask the goy to give you a down payment, and he gives you a down payment, and he owes you the rest of the money. That's the basic nekuda, be'efen kloli of what the Neder B'Yehuda was misakin, and we're going to soon go through this eitzah soon. Before I continue, in Siman Tov Mem Ches, the Alter Rebbe brings that the best way to sell the chametz to the goy is to actually transfer the chametz to the goy's rishus. The goy makes a meshicha on the chametz, and he pays kesef for the chametz, because it's a machloikis. Some of it we learned also this year in the Gemara, is a machloikis of what type of method of kinyan applies by a goy, kesef or meshicha, dafke kesef, different shittas the Alter Rebbe quotes in the Simitov Mem Chesiv Ches. So the best eitzah is to sell the chometz to the goy with both of these kinyonim. You sell the chometz with kinyan meshicha, you take the chometz into his rishus, and also the goy pays for the chometz with kesef, and like this you have kinyan kesef and also kinyan meshicha. That only applies if you have the goy standing in front of you, and the chometz that you have is a small amount of chometz that you can give him, a few boxes of crackers, a few bottles of mashke that he should take and bring into his rishus. What we're dealing with is chometz that you cannot do meshicha because the goy is not here. For example, the way we're marshal the grov to sell all our chometz, the goy is not here, and as well, it's too big. It's full stockpiles in factories and cases, that it's impossible for the goy to do kinyan meshicha. So we're focusing specifically now on the shittis of using kinyan kesef to be able to be kaina the chometz. So came the Neder B'Yehuda and said it's a very simple eitzah. Charge the goy the full amount. If he pays, it's good. And if he doesn't pay, he'll obviously sell you back the chometz because he can't afford to pay the full amount for the chometz. But there has to be the kinyan kesef, so he gives a down payment. And the down payment, that's going to be the kinyan kesef. And the rest, he owes him the money. So in Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe quotes K'mish Kenusach HaKosov Besider in Sof Sif Yud Beis in Simetov Memches, he says you have to make a shtar mechira like it says HaKosov Besider. So apparently the Alter Rebbe added this in later after he wrote in the Siddur. In the back of Hilchas Pesach, this is the most important Nekuda, we have from the Alter Rebbe a little 2 pages of Hilchas Mechiras Chometz. He also has something about selling a behema hamavakeres in order not to avoid having a bchoir, an animal that's a bchoir, which is kodesh mibeten. So the Alter Rebbe has here a kuntris from Mechiras Chometz where he describes his chidush, and he says that he wrote a letter ishtakad last year, which we don't have, but here's where we have the Alter Rebbe's shtar Mechiras Chometz, shtar of Kablan, which most of our shtaris, Zalman Shimon Dvorkin and other Rabbanim based it, obviously with the times, with new kinds of chometz, based on the Alter Rebbe's shtar. So we'll read a little bit of what the Alter Rebbe writes here. It's in the back of Hilchas Pesach, right after Hilchas Pesach. Noida b'she'orim hamutzuyonim ba'alocha. Asher harbe misvorim orishonim zal lo yotzu lo oir hatfus hadayin b'mei ha'achronim zal hataz u'mogen avrom v'nimshochim achreim. It's known that many of the svarim were not available to the greatest achronim who wrote their pirushim on Shulchan Aruch. On Chaim we have the Taz and Mogen Avrom are the Neisei Kelim on Chaim, and v'nimshochim achreim are those that base their piskei dinim on these poskim. Ad ato korevu derisenu, until recently many svarim of the Rishonim were not available. Elo, Kinire of Deriseno Elam, Kinire Ba'alil, as we see from a specific sefer that Alter Rebbe quotes, and we'll mention soon l'chayre why he quoted that sefer. Mi sefer Shita Mekubetzes Hakama Mesechtes. Shita Mekubetzes had just come out from Rebbe Tzal Ashkenazi around the time of the Alter Rebbe. Al-Kama Mesechtes v'Kayetzebei, and we know that he's melakit many Rishonim on the Sugis HaGemara, which were not available to the Mogen Avram and other poskim. Therefore, says the Alter Rebbe, Chidush Gadol Zeis, Vaday ein lismich lo hokel lemaise ala kulis shenimtzu b'divrei achrenim zal. We cannot rely on certain kulis that are brought in the poskim. Ubefrat be'iser teira chomor ki chometz sheichmira b'teira v'baliro bal yimotz. Befrat, when it comes to a deraisa, we cannot rely on certain kulis. Why? Because certain kulis that the poskim bring are against the Rishonim, which were not available to the Mogen Avram and the Taz, and certainly had they seen those Rishonim, they would never have been mekel. And here the Alter Rebbe says something very, very important. Anyone who thinks that really we don't need a mechira gemura, because we're anyways mevatel the chometz, and we're only over bal yiro bal yimotze midrabanon. So for a derabanon helps what we call a shvache mechira. Lefi haminik shehakol mevatel nachometz ve'omrim kol chamira libotla v'le v'hefker chulu. So anyone who thinks so, says the Alter Rebbe, shgoga hi biyodei. It's a mistake. It's not true. Not because even a derabanon requires a proper mechira. Says the Alter Rebbe, because it's still a deraisa. Ki chometz hanimkar einay bichlal bitul vehefker. The chometz that you're selling, when you say kol chamira, you're not mevatel it. Why? The whole reason why you're selling it to the goy is because you plan to get it back after Pesach. So you're befeidish not mevatel that chometz. Since you're befeidish not mevatel that chometz, so if the mechir is not a mechira gemura, you're over bal yiro bal yimotzi. Therefore, einay b'chal bitul v'hefker she said that kimavur b'tshubas Rashba b'shem Yerushalmi v'chein pirush Ramah b'dar kimeshu b'pri chodesh. Says the Alter Rebbe, therefore, ima mechira eino kedas. If the mechira is not done al pidin, oiver olav bebal yiro bal yimotze. You're oiver bal yiro bal yimotze. V'im kain, says the Alter Rebbe, I'm going to tell you how to make a mechira kidin. Which this paragraph of the Alter Rebbe is a little bit bestirred to what it says in Shulchan Aruch in Siman Tov Mem Ches, Siv Ches. There the Alter Rebbe does write that since be'etzem ur mevatel the chometz, it's enough a gilui das that the chometz is not yours, but Kanida the Alter Rebbe was chayzer from that, and the Siddur the Alter Rebbe holds any chometz that you sell to the goy is not part of the bittul, and therefore it's a deraisa, which is, by the way, a certain kula for us. There are those Yidden in the Welt who are makpid not to sell chometz gomer. Why? Because they're under the impression that the mechira has certain weaknesses, certain schwachkeiten, and therefore, for chometz gomer that you're over bal yiro bal yimotze midiraisa, they don't want to rely on the mechira. So therefore, they don't sell chometz gomer. Says the Alter Rebbe, if the mechira is not done properly, whatever you're selling, you're going to be over bal yiro bal yimotze. Therefore, says the Alter Rebbe, we're going to make sure that the mechira is done proper al pidin. And if the mechira is done proper al pidin, therefore there are many Yereim Mushleimim who are not makpid. They actually do sell chometz gomer, especially all the store owners, all those that have stockpiles of chometz, obviously are selling chometz gomer, and they try to do it al pidin, that it should be a mechira hayoser moil. So now the Alter Rebbe says, therefore, v'hina ikedin mechiras chometz lenochri, v'daitish yachzrenu loyachar ha-pesach, hamuske b'divrei rishonim, zal v'atisefte de psochim b'Yerushalmi, hu b'moicher b'moyes mezumonim v'lei b'hakofa. Says the Alter Rebbe, if you'll check out all the sources, all the mechiras of mechiras chometz to the goy in the rishonim, Tesefte, Yerushalmi, which has those stories of the Tanoim, the goy paid tavanut kilim, he paid full cash for the chometz. They had flour, he bought the flour, and then he sold back the flour. Nothing on credit, no down payment. Okay, says the Alter Rebbe, that's fine. Maybe because they had money. But certain people came recently, which refers to Pashtus Terenei de Behuda, L'sakin Lichtoiv, and they decided, we have an eitzah, because the goy is not going to want to sell back the chometz, let's write that the goy pays a down payment, and you write in the shtar, V'hamoiser zakafti olav b'milve. And the rest of the money, I owe you like a halva. Says the Alter Rebbe, V'gam ze einoi moyi lefi das g'dei l'rishonim zal. This will not work. U'kenire ba'alil, as we see clearly, mima shekosvu, boze g'dei li ha'achreinim ha'arai zal, as the Marai writes, Betrumas Hadeshen, Shalei motza takono limker b'hakofa, Liskef olav b'milve ayin sham. The Alter Rebbe says, if you take a look at the Trumas Hadashim, when he gives the eitzah of selling chometz, he says very clearly to sell it to the goy, give it b'matana, or to sell it b'dover mu'et. Why didn't the Trumas Hadashim come up with the idea of selling it for the proper price, for the fair market value, and just have the goy give a down payment? That the Trumas Hadashim also knew that it's not moil lefi das gedoyli harishonim zah. Therefore, the Alter Rebbe is going to give his eitzah of mechiras chometz barav kabel. But before we go further, when the Chassidim saw this, they said, what's the problem? What's wrong with hamoiser zakafti olav b'milve? L'chayda, it should work. So they asked the Alter Rebbe's brother, the Sheiris Yehuda, and the Tzemach Tzedek, and they both answered the Alter Rebbe's kavana was to the rif that's brought in the Shita Mikubetzes, which is the chayda why the Alter Rebbe mentioned as a raya of certain svarim that weren't available. He mentioned the Shita Mikubetzes, because the rif, it's actually a long tshuva sarif printed in Shita Mikubetzes and translated from Lashon Arabi, from Arabic, where there, the rif holds, hamoiser zakafti olav b'milve does not work. And in order to understand this, we're going to learn quickly a shtikl Gemara that gives us some havana in what's going on here. The story in the Gemara is the following story. Someone, Harei Ketzah, the Gemara is in Bab Metzia, the Fein Zayin Amud Beis. The Gemara says, Ketza, Harishemachar soda lachavere be'elav zuz. He sold a soda for 1,000 zuz. V'nosan le'moyes mehen mosayim zuz. He only paid 200 zuz. So l'che'ere, he only owns 200 zuz chaylik value of the karka. So the Gemara says, Take, bisman shab moicher choyzer boy. If the moicher says, I want to back out because the mechira never concluded, was never finished, never finalized, because he never paid the full amount, so yad lekeach al hol yaina. The lekeach has a choice. He could say, Ratzuloi imar loi ten li moisai, give me the 200 zuz back. Oi, ten li karka can I get moisai? Or give me 200 zuz worth of karka. Bisman shahal lekeach choyzer, but if the lekeach was choyzer, yad moicher al hol yaina. The moicher is the one that has the choice. Ratzuloi imar loi, he could say, heilach moisecha, take your money back. Ratzuloi imar loi, heilach karka can I get moisecha? Here's karka 200 zuz worth. Shimon Gamliel says this is a problem. People don't always have enough money to buy karka, so what do we do? If someone buys a karka, until he pays up the karka, each one or the meicher or the lekeach can back out of a sale. That means lo'elam void, you don't have full ownership of the karka. So what does Shimon Gamliel say? I have a eitzer. We write in the shtar a certain formula that the mechira is chal and he still owes the money. How do we do that? You write like this. Ani pleni ben pleni. Macharti soda plenis le pleni be'elav zuz. I sold him a field for 1,000 zuz. V'nosan li mehem mosayim zuz. And he paid me 200. V'hareni noishe boy ches mei zuz. The pshat is, it's ki'ilu. I lent him the rest, the 800 zuz to the koine, and he gave it back to me. And he paid me up. Now he owes me alts ahalva. In other words, it's ki'ilu, I got the full 1,000 zuz, and now I gave him a halva, the 800 zuz. So it's what happens is like this. It's ki'ilu, the moichet tells the kech, you don't have 1,000 zuz? Here, I'm going to lend you the 800 zuz. I'm going to lend you 1,000 zuz. Here, now you owe me 1,000 zuz, nothing to do with this mechira. Now pay me for the karka. We don't have to actually do that. As the Gemara says in certain places, apuchi matarti lomali, if I owe you 100, you owe me 100, I don't have to give it to you and you give it back to me. We keep it as is. So it's ki'ilu, the 800 zuz is not anymore that you owe it to me for the mechire, you owe it to me b'milve. That's the exact wording, v'hamoiser zokafti olav b'milve. The rest, I turned into a halva, not payment for the shtar. That's what Shimon Gamliel says. The Gemara continues a few lines later, and the Gemara says, "Time the cost of le'ach." Shimon Gamliel only says it works if you wrote hamoises akafti olav b'milva. Halei cost of le'ach, halei cost of achi. If you didn't write that, you just wrote, "Claude, I'm selling you a field, and here's a down payment." Leikoni. Whoever's choizer, the other one is yodei alahol yoino. For the Gemara v'atanya haneisen l'rav an lechaveri, if you give a deposit v'omali. And he said like this, if I back out, the koine says if I back out, keep the deposit. That's what a deposit is. The other one says, I'll double your deposit. So but Shimon Gamliel says, no, if it's a regular mechira, not a deposit, it's payment. Without writing this shtick, this eitzer of hamoiser zakafti olav b'milve, says Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, it works. You're kind of the field legamri, and you owe him the money, but the mechira is chal. For the Gemara stira, earlier Reb Shimon ben Gamliel said, malamdim oisom, that it should be a kinyan with a eitzer of hamoiser zakafti olav b'milve. And suddenly over here, you don't have to write anything. And for the Gemara, like kasha, hodeka ayel v'nofikazuzi, hodeka ayel v'nofikazuzi. When the moicher needs the money, so obviously he wasn't saying mechdas to finalize the mechir unless he gets paid, unless you write befeidush v'hamoiser zakafti olav b'milve. But if it's loiko ayel v'nofikazuzi, he's not desperate for cash. He's in the business, he's in real estate, he's selling, he's buying, he doesn't need the cash right now, he can wait, so he doesn't mind if the mechir is chal. Then, even if you don't write v'hamoiser zakafti olav b'milva, the rest is on milva, the kinyan always works. So the chiyora, you have a klore gemara that if you write v'hamoiser zakafti olav b'milva, the kinyan will always work. However, if you take a look into the Rishonim, the Rif, Chuvas Arif, and many other Rishonim, and the Sefer Mechiras Chametz Bar of Kabbalah from Rav Belinov, he brings there a list of many Rishonim that also hold like that. The pshat in the Gemara is that kinyan kesef will not work even if you write hamoises zakafti olav b'milva. The pshat is that he's koine the field with kinyan shtar. But if you didn't pay up, even the shtar won't work. The pshat in the Gemara, according to the Rif, is that the fact that you write v'amoises akafti ola b'milva or loika ayel v'nofik hazuzi just allows the other kinyonim, the kinyan shtar or kinyan chazoke that you might make in the soda, those kinyonim will work. But the kinyan shtar, the kinyan kesef, will never work unless you pay up. Unless the goy fully pays up. So the pshat in the Gemara is not that if you write v'amoises akafti ola b'milva, so b'meile the kinyan kesef will work. The pshat is the other kinyanim will work, but kinyan kesef will never work. We're trying to sell the chametz to the guy here with kinyan kesef. With other kinyanim, we'll see soon. Right now we're doing kinyan kesef. Says the Alter Rebbe, the kinyan kesef will not work if it's ayil v'nofik azuzi, and you write hamoiser zakafti olav b'milveh. It'll only allow other kinyanim to work, but kesef will not work if he needs the money, he has to pay up. Even if you write v'hamoiser zakafti olav b'milveh, if it's like ayil v'nofik azuzi, then it works. You don't even have to write hamoiser zakafti olav b'milveh. So B'meila, the Sheiris Yehuda, the Alter Rebbe's brother, and the Tzemach Tzedek explained, this is the pshat in why the Alter Rebbe says hamoiser zakafti olav b'milveh will not work, and the only eight says we'll see soon as with the out of Kabbalah. The Chemed writes that I am noyig here to sell mechiras chametz like the Goyen, like the Alter Rebbe, like the Hagraz, or Shnei Zalman calls him. However, I don't understand why Bechlal he's considering the Yid who's selling the chametz ayel v'nofik azuzi. I'm not selling it because I need money. I'm selling the chametz because I don't want to be aver bal yirah bal yimotz. That's his ha'ara. Now I just want to point out his ha'ara is not on the Alter Rebbe only. It's only on the Neder B'Yehuda. For some reason, the Neder B'Yehuda and the Alter Rebbe consider the Yid selling the chametz as if he's ayil v'nofik azuzi. Because if you're not ayil v'nofik azuzi, you don't even have to write hamoiser zakafti ola b'milveh. You could just give a down payment and the kinyan kesef is koine. From the mere fact that the Neder B'Yehuda was misakin to write in his shtar v'hamoiser zakafti ola b'milveh, mikan raya that he also viewed a moicher chametz, a Yid that's selling the chametz, as if he's ayil v'nofik azuzi for some reason. The Alter Rebbe is moisef in kain. Then kinyan kesef doesn't work l'fi das gedei l'rishonim zal. So we have to figure out another eitzah. But the ha'ora of the Steichemet seems from his lashon that it's a shaylan Alter Rebbe who was mesakim mechiras chametz b'arav kablan l'chayr. I don't understand why it's a ayil v'nofik azuzi. But be'emes, this ha'ora of the Steichemet is bechlal not on the Alter Rebbe. It's even on the Neder B'Yehuda and on all shtaris today that say hamoiser zakafti ola b'milveh. If you're not ayil v'nofik azuzi, you don't have to write anything. As the Gemara brings befeidish and according to the B'Shim ben Gamliel, kono machzer lo yisasha. And he has to pay him the rest. So the Mefarshim discuss why the Gdei HaPoskim, the Neder B'Yehuda and the Alter Rebbe, Tzemach Tzedek, a Yid who's selling chametz ayil v'nofik azuzi. So it's really not our responsibility, achrayis, is to answer that kasha, although from a lomdisha perspective, obviously you have to, but al Chassidic Chabad, to explain the Alter Rebbe, we don't have to answer the kasha, because the Neder B'Yehuda also has to answer the kasha. So they bring kama biyudim. Some biyudim are poshet. I'm taka selling the chametz because I don't want to be able by yimotze. But shtel for the guy doesn't pay you back. You're not going to be happy. You're not in the business. You don't need, as they say in Hebrew, hakesef tzarich l'galgel, some money ahin, money ahead. You can't afford to sell your factory or your stockpile of chametz if you are manufacturer of chametz if he's not going to pay you. So be'etzem taka, that's not the kavonas amechira, as the Gemara means ayil v'nofik azuzi. You're selling it because you need money. That's taking out your kavanas hamechira. But lepel your ayil v'nofik azuzi. Other biyudim is the goy. You don't trust the goy, so you want to make sure you get paid. You could say l'chayra. I think another biyud is enochanami. Not every yid is ayil v'nofik azuzi, but we're trying to make a shtar that applies to everyone. And if you want to make a shtar that applies to everyone, it will certainly include yidden that are ayil v'nofik azuzi, that actually need the money. And it cannot survive without getting paid for their chametz. He cannot buy more schayda without getting paid for the chametz. So in order to be kedel el yidden in this shtar, we want to make sure the shtar is kosher l'chol hadays. So if you're taking not ayil v'nofik azuzi legamri and achanami, you don't need another Kavlan, you don't need anything, because the kinyan kesef is chal bepashtas. It's only when you're ayil v'nofik azuzi, which in most cases would apply to everyone, some form. You need to make sure that the kinyan is moil, which the B'Yehuda says moises zakafti ola b'milveh works. The Alter Rebbe brings the fidas gedei l'rishonim zal. It will not work simply because many poskim say that it just allows the other kinyanim to work. Therefore, the Alter Rebbe comes to the Eitzah and says, the only way it'll work is if the goy doesn't owe you any more money. The goy paid me the down payment, and that's enough. How's that possible? Someone has to pay. So the Alter Rebbe was misakin that the goy gives together with the down payment a check, ki'ilu. That check is a shtar signed by a yid. That yid is guaranteeing as an orif kablan to pay for the rest of the money of this chametz. So later you can, so that's a chilik of an orif kablan, a regular orif. Ten loy va'ani ashalim, as the Gemara says. Lend him the money, I take it, amay achrayis. That's an orif kablan. You don't have to come to the loive. In this case, you don't have to come to the goy to get the rest of the money. You only have to come to the orif kablan, and the orif kablan is the one that has achrayis. Now he has a deal with the goy, kamuan, that if the goy will have to pay him back for any money that he's going to have to spend on the chametz. That's for sure. Aber klappe the koine and the moicher and the koine, which is the yid is the moicher and the goy is the koine, there's no relationship anymore. As the Alter Rebbe says, he says, there's no eitzel lezois ולזויס אין תקון אחרת למכר בעקוף אלא ליס יד ישרול אחר באמצע שלא יהיה לישרול בעל החומץ שום עסק באוילם מן הנוכרי הקנה החומץ ולא יהיה הנוכרי נשאר חייב כלום לבעל החומץ אלא לישרול אחר שלא יהיה החומץ שלא ידיים באוילם. To the other yid who was not part of this mechira, who never owned any of the chametz being sold. Obviously you can't be an orav on your own transaction. You can't be a guarantor on your own transaction. So obviously, whenever they get an orif kablan, he needs to make sure that if he does own any chametz, he has to sell it to a different goy to make sure that this goy, he has no chametz of this transaction. That's the takon of the Alter Rebbe for kinyan kesef. Now, there are those in the Welt who beshita will not use an orif kablan. I remember I was many times the orif kablan in Miami, and we once went to the Mechiras Chametz, and one of the Litvisher Rabbanim stood up and said, but he's a reitze b'kiyumai. And I remember I was a bocher, I had no idea what he's talking about. His taina was a good taina. His taina was l'cheira and is the orif kablan is l'cheira ever b'aliro b'alim motzei. Because he's a reitze b'kiyumai. He wants the chametz to be in existence after Pesach, because that's the only thing he has on the goy to make sure the goy pays him back. That's his lien on the chametz. Because if I'm the orif kablan, I have to pay, then I come to the guy, so you pay me. And if you don't pay me, I want all the chametz. So I'm a reitze b'kiyumai. Every yid who sells the chametz is not a reitze b'kiyumai, because the guy will have to pay me. The orif kablan will have to pay me. Oh, but the orif kablan, the buck stops by him. He needs to make sure the chametz is in existence. So maybe the yid, the orif kablan is a reitze b'kiyumai. So I would have told this Rav, you have no problem, just get a Lubavitch orif kablan and you're taken care of. For whatever reason, we don't have this problem. The Alter Rebbe doesn't have this problem, which we'll discuss in a moment. So b'meila, you could take a Lubavitch orif kablan, but that's the taina, that's the reason why certain Litvische people, Rabbonim, today do not use a orif kablan, because of the issue of a reitze b'kiyumah. L'maisa, there's a famous sikh of the Rebbe with the story with the Tzemach Tzedek and the Rebbe Rashab, with the Tzukerkes, that he didn't keep it over Pesach, and the Rebbe's Meirich Barich is different svaras why he couldn't keep it over Pesach. One of the svaras was reitze b'kiyumah, because he would want the Rebbe's chametz not to be destroyed, even if you sell it to a goy. But as the Rebbe brings kama v'kama rayos from many Rishonim, including the Alter Rebbe, that you're not over on reitze b'kiyumah b'al yiro b'al yimotzei. That's the bottom line. In other words, the taina that the Litvishe Misnagdishe Rabbanim have is a good taina. The teretz is, we don't care, because our shit is, you're not over b'al yiro b'al yimotzei by being a reitze b'kiyumah. That's at the end of the day, in Mechiras Chametz Barav Kablan, he also has a big arichas about it. But at the end of the day, that's the final teretz. The final teretz, because the Rebbe brings all the Maramekemis in the Sikha, where he brings the story there with the Tzukerkes, about why a reitze b'kiyumah is not a problem. Ubemelo the orif kablan does not have a problem with his Mechiras Chametz. The only issue so far is that this only takes care of kinyan kesef. L'chayri, you need kesef and the shichet to be yetzel l'chaladeis, which in most cases the goy is not going to be mekayim kinyan meshicha, because we're not actually giving him the chametz. Therefore, we have to search another eitzah. So the Alter Rebbe brings another eitzah which is called kinyan agav. If you sell the goy a piece of property, and agav that property, he's also kained the chametz. Also, there's a kinyan tkiyas kaf, you give a handshake, other kinyana. But let's discuss kinyan agav, because it's still part of the same chiddush of orif kablan. How are you going to sell him the property? You're going to sell him the property and you're going to want to buy it back after Pesach. You have the same problem. If the guy is not going to pay the full market value of the property, let's say you sell him a room, the room costs $5,000. Let's say this room, the guy doesn't have $5,000, he's going to pay you $100. He'll keep the room after Pesach. So we have to figure out the eitzah that the guy should sell you back the room, Zok the Alter Rebbe, so you do the same eitzah. You sell him the room with Kinyan Kesef, and he gives you a down payment. He can't write V'amoiser Zakafti Olav B'milveh, because you run into the same problem. It's not Kinyan Kesef, and you need Kesef or Shtar, as we'll discuss in a minute. So therefore you write also an Arav Kablan. So we make really two Arav Kablans according to the Alter Rebbe. For Kinyan Kesef, for the actual Chametz, he has to have a Goy being a Yid, being an Arav Kablan for the rest of the money. And Al Derech Zeh for the Mechira of the Karka, where the chametz is being sold, agav it. Also, he pays a down payment for that, plus a shtar of kabin that the yid is achroi, and then after Pesach you buy it back. In the shtar mechira, the Alter Rebbe already doesn't write mechiras hakarka, he writes schiras hakarka. Why? And there's another issue. If you take a look at the shtar mechiras chametz, we're also renting to the goy the karka where the chametz is. Now we just learned the Gemara in Kiddushin. The halach is you don't need svarim. For Kinyan Agav, the metaltlin do not have to be on the karka. Just learned it. So l'chayda, why do we have to sell the karka where the chametz is shebohem? L'chayda, that you don't have to do. You could sell him one karka from anywhere. And Agav, that karka, you'll be kind of the chametz. So to answer the second question, certain poskim are mefakpik on the mechiras chametz, because there's a din, according to some poskim, if you have a chametz of a goy in your house that you're achroi for Kabbalas Achrayis, we learned that Gemara Psachim last year, you're over by your bal yimotzi, according to some poskim. The shaila is, who's achroi for the chametz that's in your house that you sold to the goy? What's the taich achroi? That means you have to make sure that's in existence after Pesach. If not, he's not going to have to pay. That's taich achrayis. L'chayra here, you're achroi. Because since we don't exactly write the price and the weight of the chametz before we write it in the shtar mechira, we just write the chametz that's in this area. So after Pesach, if the chametz is not here and you can't prove to the guy what the chametz is, the guy's not going to have to pay. So really, you're achroi to make sure the chametz is in existence. Because if it's not in existence after Pesach, the guy befeidish won't pay. He'll say, you prove to me, take a picture, show me exactly with a date where the chametz was, how much it weighed, how much it costed, and I'm not going to pay. The mele, you have chametz shel goy in your house that you're achroi. So for that, eitzah is you take it out of your house. You rent or sell the mokim where the chametz is to the goy. So even if that's considered Kabbalas Achrayis, it's not a problem because it's chametz shel goy, bebeisoi shel goy. Because since you're renting the mokim where the chametz is to the goy, so therefore the house where the chametz is not yours either. So there's no problem. In truth, many poskim, Shadis Yehuda writes, that's not called Kabbalas Achrayis. That's by default Kabbalas Achrayis. Real Kabbalas Achrayis, in order to be able to by Yimotze, means that you lechatchila take responsibility. Here you don't take responsibility. It doesn't mean that you're potter. You're actually chayiv. It's just we can't be mechayiv you because there's no rayis. So really, you're not achroi for the chametz. The goy is achroi for the chametz. And really, the goy is chayiv to pay you, even if the chametz is not in existence. It's just he won't have to pay because there's no raya. That's not called Kabbalas Achrayis l'maisa. But b'peil mamish, because of this idea, we also sell or rent the mokim where the chametz is. The Neder Yehuda was misakin kanire, and apparently the Alter Rebbe adapted that takona in his shtar that we don't sell the places to the goy, we rent the place to the goy. First of all, because Kinyan Kesef works by schirus. You don't need Kinyan Shtar. Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch and Tov Mem Ches does, right? You should also sell the mokim with Kinyan Shtar, because that's also required for mechiras karka to a goy. But there's another reason. If we're going to be selling or renting the place where the chametz is, there are many people, Yidden, who have no right to sell to the goy the place where the chametz is. Anyone who's renting an apartment cannot sell that mokim, because it's not his. You can't sell someone else's chafetzim. I'm sure you're not allowed to. It doesn't work. It's gneva. It's not a mechira. And you can't get permission always from the owner. The owner could be a goy. The owner cannot be here. It's kama yonim. So the eitz is renting. That's fine. Subletting, subleasing. Taki, I'm not giving it away to the goy. I'm only renting it to the goy. Once you're renting already, you don't even know if Kablan bets him anymore, because you could charge him whatever you want. At the end of the week, the mokim will come back anyways. L'poil mamish, however, the minig is that we also rent the chametz to the goy with an arav kablan. and we have the goy give a down payment for the karka, every mokim where the chametz is, she'agaboy, he's koined the chametz, plus a shtar out of kablan guaranteeing the rest. The pashtus is because it's so many mekoimis. If it would be one mokim, you could charge him $100 for 8 days. It's so many mekoimis. You want to make sure that there's a shava pruta, there's a certain price, a decent price for each place. So b'meila you charge the value l'cheira of the renting of for a week of all these mekoimis, and sometimes it's ganzen buildings and ganzen warehouses. So b'meila we use also an Arav Kabbalan for that. So the chiddush of the Alter Rebbe is chidushim are that for kinyan kesef, in order for the kinyan to be chal, the goy has to be paid up completely. Ub'meila the only eitzah is if you charge him a dovar mu'at, which we don't want to do because the goy, there's a chance he'll walk off with the chametz. It happened a few years ago in Eretz Yisrael. There were some Yidden who decided to be extra frum. They're not going to make a shtik mechira. They took all their expensive mashkes and they went to a guy and said, "We're giving it to you b'matana gemura." The guy took a truck, took the mashke, went to Gaza and walked off with all the mashkoyas. Okay, that was the fact. He never brought it back. He moved him. So therefore, you want the guy to owe a lot of money. So therefore, you can't have him do it because since according to the Neidah B'Yehuda he's considering it Ayal V'Nafik Azuzi, B'Meila according to the Rifim many D'Shainim the Kini Kesef doesn't work even if you write a Moshe Zakafti Ola B'Milva. And again, to recap, the issue of Ayal V'Nafik Azuzi, even the Neidah B'Yehuda needs to explain. And B'Pashtus, when we sell the chametz, we're going to want the money l'payil, or there are certain people that are Ayal V'Nafik Azuzi. We want to make sure that that shtar works for everyone. And then we also do kinyan agav because according to some poskim, kinyan kesef alone is not enough. And therefore, instead of, we could be moicher the mokim with an Arav Kabbalan, we're seicher the mekaymis for the above mentioned reasons, and the mekaymis shebohem hachometz. Now, be'etzem, all this that we discussed here was all about each, let's say, yid making his own mechira with a particular goy. However, it became the minig, maybe 100, 150 years ago, that we make the rov as a shliach to sell the chametz for us to the goy. And therefore, he does all these inyonim. Therefore, it's most of the times not practical for every single one of us. L'maisa, if you want a big history and background about Mechiras Chametz Bichlal, how it developed, in Hamayat and Baloch of Marav Zevin, he has a very, very nice Bashraibung, an article written up with all the Mekayris and how the Ishtalshalos of Mechiras Chametz and how it went. It says that the Rabbeim, the Rebbe writes in Hayem Yem, the Rabbeim, they wouldn't be marshe the Rav to sell the Chametz on their behalf, but they would actually sell the Chametz directly to the Rav. And the Rav would then sell the Chametz that now became his to the Goy. Ube Arav Kabbalan. Now, based on what we said now, you don't need, the Rebbe didn't need an Arav Kabbalan. He could have given it to the Rav b'matana. He didn't even have to do a mechira. He could have sold it to the Rav b'dover mu'at. What was he afraid of? The Rav's not going to sell the Rebbe back the Chametz. If Madoch lahavdil by a goy, that's makiroi, the Trumas Hadashin says you can sell it b'dover mu'at. The Rebbe with the Rav would for sure get the Chametz back. And that's the chidush. That the Rabbeim would sell the Chametz to the Rav, ube Arav Kabbalan. Bepashtus, heil v'nofik mipume the Rav. Since that's the Alter Rebbe's takon of Mechiras Chametz to sell with an Arav Kabbalan, the Rabbeim would make sure to sell the Chametz as well with an Arav Kabbalan. I just want to add, the Achronim that write that although the minig is to give the Rav some money, it's just an opportunity to pay for a service. Like lahavdil, you pay for a professional for a service. The Rav is doing a professional service, kavayochel, so therefore you pay him. But somewhat a time it makes it easier because someone mefakpik years ago on this mass mechira. So some want to say, I think the Moshe Feinstein says this, that he becomes your poil if you pay him and not just your shliach. So therefore, when you pay him, he becomes your poil. Therefore, it's kedai. Even bochrim who are selling chametz, to somehow, I know this year it's a little bit difficult. We're not selling directly with the Rav, making a kinyan. It's being done online through shtoris, through emails, v'kayetze. Still, if there's a way to somehow to give some money, it's certainly kedai for the Rav to get a few dollars. But also the achreinim, we want to do it ba'ifan hayeser moil, which the Alter Rebbe did not discuss the mass mechiras that we're doing today. He was discussing an individual mechira between a yid and a goy. If you give the Rav some money, some poskim say it adds to the teikif of this mechira. L'peil mamash, as I mentioned, we also do kinyan, whatever, tkiyas kaf, and other kinyanim that the Alter Rebbe mentions. What's nog bein hasoichem. Kinyan chalipin is a whole other sugya. We learned it this year in the Gemara. Does kinyan chalipin will work by a goy? The Alter Rebbe does not mention kinyan chalipin. Now, when we do a mechiras chametz, you have to make sure that the shtar we have is not a litvish shtar. because you can't make an art of Kabbalah, and in the shtar it says Hamoises Akafti Ola B'milva. That's a tarti de sasri, it's a stira meneu bay. Maybe it would even invalidate the shtar. I don't know how it works if there's one toas in the shtar. But if the shtar says Hamoises Akafti Ola B'milva and he used the shtar out of Kabbalah, that's a stira. So it has to be done with a proper shtar. The shaila people ask is, can you buy in a store that sold chametz without a note of Kabbalah? Most Rabbanim and Poskim will say yes, because even the Alter Rebbe is not only relying on Kinyan Kesef, because some Poskim say Kinyan Kesef alone is not enough. We're anyways relying on the other Kinyonim, and the other Kinyonim are done properly, and therefore we can eat in any store that had mechiras chametz, or buy from any store that had mechiras chametz done by an erlich echrede sherov. I want to wish everyone a kosher and freilich in Pesach and a gesund in Pesach, and all those that needed a refuah shlema should have a refuah shlema. B'korev v'teikef mi ad mamish, that we should be zeicha already this erev Pesach, that we should be zeicha to be v'neichal shom min azvochim u'min absochim, and have the korban Pesach in the Beis HaMikdash, binyan Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi al yedei Mashiach tzidkenu, a guten yontif.